First of all, let's understand what is resentment. Resentment is the feeling of a bitter indignation at having been treated badly or unfairly by a specific person or an institution. Now, obviously, disappointment is a normal part of life. However, when the feeling becomes too overwhelming, it can contribute to resentment, which means that the person experiencing resentment will often feel a complex variety of emotion that include anger, disappointment, bitterness, and hard feelings. In the worst case, this can also mean that you can't stop thinking about the event that caused the intense emotion, reliving over and over the painful experience and keeping you in a constant state of pain. In some very rare cases, the resentment can trigger over time a strong desire for revenge. Holding on to such a high level of negativity can take a toll on your mental health. This is why being self-aware and recognizing the sign of increasing resentment is so important so that you can take the right action and even ask for help if needed. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can deal with resentment just by increasing the level of your self-awareness and self-coaching yourself on the spot using the Osfour self-coaching model, aka the Swiss knife.
Hello everyone, this is Sofia Osfour and welcome on my masterclass on healing wounds with the Osfour self-coaching model. Before we start, let's first understand what is a model. In psychology, a model is referred as a theory or process that is either created to understand a mechanism or to solve a precise problem, such as the work of Byron Katie, which is made out of 4 powerful questions that helps you change your belief system. The next question you're probably wondering about is what is the Osfour self-coaching model then? The Osfour self-coaching model is a process, a set of habits and principles, and a tool. But the best way to describe it would be to simply say that it is a daily practice. As a process, it is designed to transform negative experiences into powerful life lessons and help you heal them. As a set of habits and principles, it teaches you how you can recycle your negative experiences to drastically increase your self-awareness and enhance the quality of your communication, as well as using those experiences as a springboard for you to learn, grow, and evolve. As a tool, it provides you with a powerful set of principles that, and when combined with the sets of habits and the process itself, becomes a very sophisticated tool that ultimately allows you to self-coach yourself on the spot in order to manage and face the daily challenges of your life in a more efficient, powerful, and peaceful way. Now, I know what you're going to say to me. Sofia, that all sounds very important and interesting, but what do you mean exactly? Let me break it down to you. You know how sometimes you're going through a very difficult situation and the only question you have in your head over and over is, why me? And don't you agree that negative experiences can be sometimes so challenging that it feels as though you're dragging them years and years after you've experienced them? Well, what you probably don't know is that the reason you drag them is because you have not been able to process them properly, digest them, forgive them, and ultimately learn the lesson they had to teach you. Oh yes, because I forgot to tell you, but all the bad experiences that you're going through in your life, well, they're not just there to hurt you, but in fact to teach you a very important lesson you need to learn in order to grow. And spoiler alert, guys, but that is one of the purpose of life. I'm just saying. So, in other words, the better you get at digesting those experiences and of course learning from them, the easier your life is going to be. So I'm guessing that at this point, your next question is, what would I really benefit from learning the Osfour self-coaching model? Okay, that is a fair question. But before I tell you that, let me first say this. One of the most disturbing assumptions that is made in our society, and that I personally always thought to be not only strange, but also seriously disempowering, is the fact that people take for granted that because you are a human being from day one, that obviously means that you know and understand everything that is happening inside your inner world, which is simply not true. The reality is that most of us operate at a basic and reactive level because we are on autopilot mode, unconscious of what is really happening into our inner world. We react and respond to outside stimuli without having a clear understanding of why we feel or act the way we do. simply because we have never been taught how to inquire about it. But moreover, because even if we knew about it, what are we supposed to do with it? So the benefit of learning the Osfour self-coaching model is that it gives you the knowledge, tools, and skills you need to be mindful of yourself, where you can anticipate, understand, and control what is happening into your inner world. But more importantly, deal with it. The model is designed to provide you with a clear and simple process and give you the tools to self-coach yourself in order to operate in a more efficient way at 3 constant levels that most people struggle with in their daily life, which is what you experience, how you experienced it, and how you respond to it. In this masterclass, I'm teaching you the basic of the Osfour self-coaching model through study cases of famous people. Together, we are going to analyze what are the negative experiences they faced and how they could digest, learn, and heal them if they had the Osfour self-coaching model. The model is made out of 3 layers. The process, which is the 4 different steps that the model is made of. The postures, which is the attitude that you will need to develop to go through the process. And finally, the postulas, which are, if you will, the rules that structure the model. Here in this masterclass, you will be taught the process and the postures. And if you're interested to work with me on one-to-one and learn the whole Osfour self-coaching model, go on my website to see my coaching package, or contact me directly via my email address to book your 30 minutes free discovery session. You'll find both the link below this video. Finally, keep in mind that although the Osfour self-coaching model is a very powerful tool, it is not designed to work on traumatic experiences or for people with mental issues. For those things, we advise you to seek other type of support.
Imagine the scene. You're just in the middle of an argument, like a tiny argument about something very silly with your boyfriend. But as the argument keeps on moving forward, you start to feel like a fire inside your belly, an anger, a rage that start to really grow and grow, and suddenly, completely out of the blue, you completely snap. And it's completely out of proportion, I mean, okay, he's not, putting his clothes away, but that doesn't deserve that kind of anger. And you just go into a rage and you start to screaming at him about how disrespectful he is towards you and how you're tired of all these things. And your boyfriend is just right in front of you, gobsmacked, unable to talk because he just don't get what just happened in there. As you look in his eyes, you just realize that, you're out of control, and you're just out of order, This didn't deserve that level of anger. And then you realize it's not against him you're angry. You're angry about your ex-boyfriend and everything he's done. This is a moment of crisis. And welcome on this new episode of my masterclass. In today's video, I'm going to show you, as usual, how you can self-coach yourself using the Osfour self-coaching model, as usual. But before we start, I just want to remind you that you have a free worksheet that you can download below this video. In there, you can find out how you can use the Osfour self-coaching model either as a process or as a tool. As a process, the video 1, 2, and 3 that I have posted already on my YouTube can teach you how you can use the model when you want to use it as a process to transform negative experiences into powerful life lesson. However, at the moment, I'm focusing more on showing you how to self-coach yourself on the spot using the Osfour self-coaching model because I found it much more pertinent. In the meantime, also, I just want to remind you that, what I'm teaching you here is the basic of the Osfour self-coaching model, although it's very powerful. But if you want to learn the whole model, you can always, there's a link below here where you can find my website, and you can go there and find everything you need to know in case you are interested on learning about the whole model. Anyway, so for today's video, we are going to work on self-coaching yourself when you're feeling resentment, right? Resentment is a very big deal, you know, when it comes down to emotions. So as you can see here, there's a picture of, you know, the first part of the model. Now you should be used to it, but the more we practice, the better we get at it. So normally when you use the model as a process, what you're looking for is your perception, your thoughts, your emotions, your belief system, and your behaviors. But in this case, when you are facing a moment of crisis and you want to self-coach yourself, you start with your emotions, okay? And this first part of the model, when you use it as a tool, answer one question and one specific tool. The question is simply what is happening, what's going on, and the tool is what I call cut down, okay? So as usual, you should be used to it by now, but if not, if you're new, then just close your eyes, and what you're gonna do is, for me, I put my hands here, you know, where all the emotions are usually stuck in your plexus solar, and I connect my breathing with my heartbeat. And when it's done, you up there, you're gonna ask yourself, okay, what's going on here? What's going on? Because if you don't know what's going on inside of you, then who is supposed to know? That's the question. And the problem is that when you don't know what is going on with you, you end up into a very uncomfortable position where you run into the risk of blaming other people or blaming society for what's going on that you don't understand, okay? Or even worse, you end up making assumptions about yourself that are not true. So asking yourself what's going on is very important. And you start with your emotion, because this is a very powerful place. So most likely if you have resentment, the byproduct of that is anger. That's it. Anger, resentment, frustration is all the same as anger. And, you know, maybe you're going to find other emotions. I'm guessing, you know, in this case, if you still have anger about your ex, maybe you have sadness, frustration, depression even, God knows why. But the purpose of this exercise is that you found out what you feel, okay? And you make a mental note of everything that you feel. Once you have found out about what you feel, you jump and you look, okay, just before I started to feel that anger, and in this specific situation, because this is interesting, right? In this scenario I gave you, this person is arguing, and this is something that can happen to us, so we have to be very mindful of that. You know, is that what we call this is an elastic emotion. What it actually means is that when the problem happened, you were not able to experience the emotions. And now, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years later, you're re-experiencing the anger with someone else. So in a way, that person becomes a way for you to experience that emotion that was there, stuck, but unable to bust out, to come out, right? So we call this an elastic emotion, and that's why it's completely out of proportion, right? It's very important for us to be able to be mindful and aware of those things, because in those moments, you know, imagine in this scenario I gave you, okay, you're just shouting at your boyfriend who is an adult. He might not understand what's going on, but he's going to understand that something is up, okay? But imagine if you are, as a parent, are not able to acknowledge what's happening inside of you, and now you just start to shout at your child, you know, and he's just there feeling like, what's going on? The level of anger is not corresponding what's happening. And for him, he's going to be thinking all kind of things bad about him. You wouldn't want you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't want that to happen. That's what I mean. Okay, so to be able to assess, especially something as powerful as resentment, because resentment is something that builds on. So it's going to either explode or implode. It's just either way. Once you found out what are the emotions, what you want to find out is, okay, just before I started to have this emotion where I'm just having an argument with this boyfriend, and then it steps in to something else. What is it that I was thinking, you know? So I can imagine, I'm just going to give an example. I'm not being respected. This person is not respecting me. Now, you have to understand in that moment where you have to assess the situation, okay, if you have been in a relationship where you felt you were not respected and you were not able to set up your boundaries, the risk that may happen is that the next time you're just setting boundaries that are too sensitive, I want to say, right? It's not because he didn't put his clothes right that now you should bust out of rage, you know. So, okay, so I'm not respected, I'm not respected. It's gonna happen. I'm just saying, you know, what kind of thoughts that are being triggered is this. It is exactly what you want to find out. The one that I come up with is I'm not respected, but there's probably something else, and this is something that you want to take a mental note, write them down, okay? Once you have done that, then you want to step into the level up and find out, okay, so when this person has done this, you know, he didn't put his clothes away, how did I felt? What was my perception of this situation? And so what you want to find out is, okay, what was my perception? So maybe in this case, I'm just giving an example. Here we go, it happens again. You know, here we go, it happens again, you know. It's the same, you know. I'm always attracting the same kind of guy. I'm just saying things, right? What's interesting here is that it's probably not the same, but you're making it the same because whatever happened in the past was not resolved. And in a way, this person who's maybe very different than this other person, or not, but what you're using is that unconsciously, because the things was not resolved before and in a way forgotten and accepted, then it's still on. Right, it's still on, and it's still on, and it has to come out. So if it's this person or this person, it doesn't matter, it just has to come out. So for you to find out what was your perception would give you a guideline of, okay, am I dealing with what's happening here right now with this person, or am I dealing with something else happened elsewhere? And you're gonna know because it's gonna fit what just happened in there. He just put his clothes, he doesn't put his clothes away or something, and I have to clean up after him, or, you know, is out of proportion. Now you have found out what are the perception, what are your thoughts, what are your emotions, you took a mental note, and you go into the belief system. So most likely if someone has resentment, you know, I could imagine I'm not being respected, it's happening again. Those are the kind of conclusion or belief system, if you prefer, that you can come up with. You want to find out what are those ones because they are connected to the perception and they're also connected to the wound. So if I was, let's say, in a previous relationship where I was cheated on, you know, and in that case I felt that I was not respected, I felt that I was mistreated, then it would be understandable that this would be a wound. And if I still have resentment, that means I haven't healed and it's still on, like on. Now once I have found out this, what I want to figure it out is, okay, when I feel that I'm not respected, how do I behave, right? And maybe, you know, the one thing is that, to give you an example, is that maybe when I feel that I'm not respected, and because I have not resolved the problem that was with the other person, maybe I am disrespectful towards that person, and that's why he's not putting his clothes away, because maybe I'm being too controlling, I'm being too aggressive, maybe the tone of my voice is not right, and so that's why this person, you know, as a way of resistance, is not putting his things away. You know, this could be the reason behind it. So you want to assess that first part. Now let's go on the second part. Okay, so now the second part of the model, you know, what we're looking for and the question and the skills that is asking is, first, what is it exactly that I'm resentful about? What is it exactly that I'm resentful about? And I call this skill zoom in. Okay? So this is very important because this is a part where you just cut through the chase. What is it exactly that makes me so resentful, you know? Obviously, as I said, if I was in a relationship and things happen and I was not able to express my anger, or I was not able to express my anger, or I was not able to express my boundaries, to set up clearly my boundaries, and so therefore that person just walk all over me, then the reason I have this resentment is because of that, one of those two things. But ultimately the core problem about resentment is, in a way, is that you don't want to let it go, right? It happens what it happens, and you're just pissed off because you didn't react. So maybe it's like an anger towards myself, because why is it that I even allow that person to behave that way? It could be that. Or this person has done this and this and I'm angry and I can't let it go, because it was so hurtful. Ultimately, what you understand is that the problem is that there's something that is not healed. And remember that you can use this model and this would be a perfect example of how to use the Osfour self-coaching model in that case as a process in order for you to completely let go of the resentment. Because what the model is about is like a washing machine. You put inside the experience, in this case, I don't know, you were cheating on, you betrayal, blah blah blah. You put the experience inside, you go through the whole process. By the time you finish, you have the lesson that needed to be learned without the emotional charge. But in this case, what it sounds like is that someone who has resentment means that they have not been able to take in the lesson, and all they are left with is the emotional charge. See, that's what's the problem. And resentment is a perfect example for that. So maybe it is true that in this situation, with the actual boyfriend, the boyfriend is actually disrespectful. But because this person was not able in the first place with the previous relationship to take the lesson, okay, for instance, how do I set my boundary? Do I even know how to set my boundary? Most women, for example, it's not just women, but women most likely have a difficulty to set up their boundaries, because there's an implicit task that is demanded from a very young age to women, is that they're not allowed to be angry, right? Because a cute, sweet little girl is not angry. Same as, our society is demanding from men that they're not allowed to be sad, right? So this could be an explanation why women have difficulties to set up their boundaries. So of course, if you have been through the experience without being able to take the lesson, you're in big trouble, and this could lead to either you attracting the same type of person, or you maybe looking for a guy who's going to be weak but still gonna not respect your boundaries because you're going to be too controlling. So it depends, Anyway, once you have found out what is it exactly about that I'm resentful about, you write it down. Write it down. Okay, I'm resentful because of this, that, but ultimately because I haven't let it go, right? I have not forgiven that person, but most importantly, I have not forgiven myself. Once you have done that, what you want to find out, is distinguishment. But in this specific case, distinguishment, resentment is something that ultimately belongs to you. Even though someone has hurt you and they've done something to trigger that, resentment is something, it's really a choice. Do I let go, or do I keep this anger rise and boil inside of me? Yeah. So in this case, it's really something that belongs to you and that you have to make a choice. Now, here's an important thing to say about resentment. Sometimes the reason people hold on to resentment is because they feel as though they haven't had a justice, and they went through an injustice, and the only way for them to give themselves justice is by holding on to the resentment, because in a way, the resentment is a proof that something wrong has been done to them. Right? So I'm holding on to the resentment because I don't want to make it easy for that person. But ultimately, you're not making it easy for you. Resentment is never a good emotions to keep inside of you. I don't care what it is. Because as I said, sometimes what happens is that because this emotion could not express itself, it finds other ways, other places to express itself. And you might end up being way too hard to someone who has not done anything or very little in comparison to, the way you express yourself. Now, quality of answer, this is a perfect example of you being able to sit down and say, okay, what was the quality of my answer? In here, I was absolutely 100% in a reactive mode. I was just reacting to my emotions, absolutely 100% on autopilot. And as I said, and I say that again because it's worth saying, in here, the scenario that I give you is a woman shouting out of proportion with her man. But imagine if you do that with your child and you shout and you just scream, or if you do that with a stranger, or if it happens at work and you just snap and you just go in a crazy rage because you had put this emotion and you squeezed it inside of you, trying to control it, but it's still boiling and that's it until it explodes. So very good moment to assess your quality of answer, and in here obviously it's an automated reply, not what we want. Finally, what is your positive attention? When someone is holding on to resentment, I just give you a clue just like 2 seconds ago when I said when someone is holding on to resentment, it's not because they want to holding on to it, but it's often because they feel as though if I let go of that, it's like this person could hurt me and it doesn't count. And it's got nothing to do with that, If someone has done you wrong, let the universe do its work. That's it. That's it. But in the meantime, let it go for yourself. You're not working for that person, you're working for you. So even though the positive attention is to holding to the resentment as a declaration of, look, this has been done and it's wrong, but at the same time, it's not going to take you the right direction. Just let it go. Finally, what you want to find out is a pattern, Are you someone who forgives easily, or are you someone who stay, and resentful for years and years and years and years and years? And what you also want to find out is that, okay, if I'm a person that holds on into resentment for a long time, it takes me like years and years before I forgive to someone or something, you want to find out, okay, so how do I behave with all of these very dark emotions? How do I behave? You want to figure it out. You want to monitorize that, okay? That was the second part of the model. Now let's jump on the last part. Okay guys, so the third part of the model, which contained the 2 questions and the 2 tools that we need when you use the model as a tool. The first question is, okay, what needs to change? And I call this skill slow down. And finally, the last question is, how am I going to make that change? And I call that skill focus. So on the first part, what needs to change? If I have resentment, if you are somebody who's holding on to a resentment for a specific reason, first of all, it's interesting to understand, okay, are you someone who's got a tendency to always hold on into resentment? It's very slow for you to forgive. If someone does something wrong, you go, you're even revengeful, which is the worst. Where do you assess yourself in there? That's the number one thing. Either way, if you discover that actually no, but this specific relationship was extremely hurtful for you and you have a problem to let it go, then either way, what I invite you to do is to use the model as a process. That's what I would do. Use the model as a process. Go through the 4 steps until you can let go and forgive. That's it. That's what the model is about, at its core. It's a process to allow you to go through the experience that you have been through, put it in a washing machine. That's it. And by the time you finish, you learn the lesson and you leave all the emotion charge. And the lessons are very important, because if indeed someone has done or crossed your boundaries or done something that were disrespectful, unless you can go through the whole process, you're not going to be able to learn the clues that are so important, so that next time when you meet someone, you know straight away how to assert yourself, or even better, you know the sign that this person had. And so the next person who's coming, you can see the sign straight away. You could say, that's not for me. That's it. Thank you. No, I get that. Yeah, you're very charming, but not for me. That's it. So learning a lesson is very important. That's what I would say to you. Now, on the last part, you want to find out, okay, so I'm going to use this model, and I'm going to, ultimately the core of the model at the end is to forgive. So how am I going to do that, So the question is, okay, what am I going to do? Why am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And the inconvenience there is to forgive, because there is an inconvenience to forgive. Sometimes you just want to be angry about someone because, that's it, because they just pisses you off. And you know what? I have to say that when I created the model, and I really created the process of going all through the 4 parts, I have to say that this part was really the part where I thought to myself, that's why you need a process. Because if you are being thrown away on your own into the land of forgiveness, I would say, I have to say it depends, and I've said that, you probably heard me say that, but if someone hurt you bad enough, forgiveness is not the first place you want to go, I'll tell you that. And you could hold on years and years and years and years and years into resentment, anger, frustration. So the only really final reason, you want to forgive someone is just because it does you well for you. That's it. But if you can't find that space, then there's multiple reasons why you want to hold on to that. So the inconvenience would be potentially that, I'm just gonna have to, in a way, allow that person to just go on with their life and just, because there's always an impression when you've been hurt, like, oh, this person is just gonna go on and be happy. It's not necessarily the case, but it's an impression. And that could be an inconvenience. Finally, you just engage yourself, and you practice the model, and you use, you go through the whole 4 process. You can watch, by the way, my videos, the video 1, 2, 3, who shows you how you can use the process as a way to transform negative experiences into powerful life lesson. Okay guys, so listen, I hope this video helped you. If you have comments, questions, but you can also, ring the bell, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or send me an email just to tell me if this was helpful, or how could I make this video more helpful. That would be amazing for me. And all I'm gonna say to you until next week is peace, love, and light. Bye bye.